Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Old Reader, New Reader. We're back again. We did it. Hi, Jessica.
Guess who's back? Back again. Us. I'm in a new location. I'm in my dining room. It's very bright compared to where my bookshelves are. I'm just mixing it up, trying new things in life, you know?
I like it. I, slightly tilted my webcam down. So it's like, wow.
Oh, what? New year, new me.
Woo!
Ooh.
Hello, everybody. James is always here.
Hi, James.
Hello, Kenneth.
Hey, Kenny, how are you?
So, the reason why I chose this book, now, isn't totally fair to choose this because I think it's not physically out yet, the whole book by itself.
It's true. I noticed that when I tried to log my review, one of the apps that I've been testing out for the year was like issue by issue, and I was like, volume.
Yeah, so actually, oh no, it just came out today. Wow.
Oh, what? Happy in print full collection birthday. Collected edition B-Day.
So as of today, The Boy Wonder by Juni Ba has been released. This is a limited series by DC. It's under the Black label. I read through DC Universe Ultra, DC Universe Infinite Ultra
Megaplex,
whatever.
Extravaganza.
Because I had a free trial, so I was like, read everything. And this is one that I really liked. So this is, hello, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
This is by Juni Ba. Juni Ba also did, I think one of the ones that comes to mind the most, because it looks like they've done some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What I know them from, which is a name I cannot pronounce, but I really like the book because I have it from TKO Studios. I will share my screen to show you guys. I can't pronounce that, but it's a West African fantasy epic. So I have that book downstairs, maybe? Along with some like special cards that came along with it. So that's why I recognize the name from there. But they were brought on to write and illustrate this book, The Boy Wonder, which is centered around Damian Wayne. But it's a very interesting one. Oh, the artwork is incredible. That's one of the main reasons why I really wanted to push this book. One, because I did like the writing a lot, but also just the art was very different.
It was great. Yeah, and immediately I was impressed because this book was not on my radar when we were chatting about what to read. You suggested. I mean, I assumed it was a Robin book based on the title, but I totally missed seeing this on the app or hearing anyone talk about it. And the second I opened the first issue, I was really the art was very exciting. It felt like inviting and familiar, but also very fresh. And it stayed consistently great through all 5 issues.
I wish I could find a better way to show you guys some of the art here, but it's very I'll try to share and see. Oh, we'll just do some Google image looking. That's the professional term of that. But it's very artsy, but also kind of choppy in a way. The colors are very bright and very intentional. You can see, but just some of the cover work, it's just very different. And I think that adds to some of the almost gothic art-esque of this, kind of a comical gothic, somewhat closer Hellboy art, but not quite.
It's a really good
If I had to relate it to something, it'd be Hellboy.
I think that makes sense. I was going to say, I think that's spot on and better than what I was originally going to say, which was it a little bit reminded me of early aughts cartoons like Ben 10, but almost done in the style of an homage to 40s and 50s comics. The coloring especially feels very 40s and 50s. But I think that the comp to Hellboy totally tracks. Yeah.
So to give you guys kind of a brief overview of what this kind of is. So in the beginning of the book, we see what appears to be a kidnapped Damian, he's being held hostage, he's being kidnapped, and this kidnapper's kind of just talking to him, and he's just getting him to talk to him. So he's just like, hey, you want to hear a story? You want to hear this? And eventually kind of having this rapport throughout here where the next several, the issues throughout here are, again, what appears to be Damian is not Damian, telling these stories about Damien's life, but in like this kind of third person, kind of like gothic fairy tale way, almost, in a way that he's like, there was once a boy, and like his, or there's once this like vigilante who had these sons, but the last son was a disappointment. He goes through and talks about Bruce and talks about each of the Robins and gives them this like very, I don't know, poetic sort of like look at all of their lives. And then of course like Talia al Ghul, and like and while we're dealing with this, also looking at some of his own like of Damien's like insecurities and his feelings around violence and death and killing, and like what does that mean for him. That's my quick sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and each issue has like a different theme. I think if you're a fan of the Bat family and you like to explore what makes each Robin particularly great and different and interesting, this is an excellent book, because especially for the first, I'd say 3 issues, they each have an emphasis. Like Red Hood, Jason Todd's definitely one of my favorites, and I really liked that issue. So I think that it's telling Damien's story, and also it's just a really good Bat family story as well, and doesn't have much Batman in it. It is one of those that I feel like is becoming more and more common, where Batman's presence is more of an off-page type situation. But yeah, if you're a fan of the Bat family, the first 3 issues especially reminded me, sometimes actually in tone even of Wayne Family Adventures, because especially in the Jason Todd issues, there's a lot of like banter and back and forth between them that reminded me of the family dynamic in Wayne Family Adventures. So if you like that, this is also, I think, a really nice natural extension that's got a little bit more focus, of course.
All right, I gave it to bring it up digitally so we could actually look at it a little bit.
Okay.
So I do want to show some of the art and show kind of how the breakdown of him, the way that he describes the story and like him working along with everyone else. Sorry, real quick.
Take your time.
But like there's this, so you can see this breakdown, like while he's also talking about his own stories of like dealing with also the very cute situation of the way he sees Nightwing and Batgirl is very adorable, because they're just being cute with each other. He's like, oh, gross. But the way over here where he's describing like what's happening here, like it was unbearable to watch. The prince knew his brother's story, you see, and like he goes through as if he is this like fantasy story throughout here, describing like what's happened to his like siblings and things. But as you can see by the art, it's very just like, it's comical, but it does feel like almost like a children's book-esque if you wanted to sort of relate it to that, but not obviously, because there's death and murder and things. I don't want to show too much because of copyright stuff, but
I thought it's interesting you pointed out the age suggestion just then, because when I saw that it was Black Label, because again, this wasn't on my radar, and I saw it, I still associate Black Label, even though I know they're not all like this, as like being a bit more mature content-wise. And maybe because I'm not a child, nor do I have children.
I was thinking about the early days when it was like, we have Black Label and Batman's penis. Because like back in the day.
Yes. And that's not the vibe. I'm trying to remember if there was even like foul language throughout, and I can't really recall anything standing out. So I think this still would be fine for like, honestly, middle school or something like that. I think would be fine.
I think so. Like based on, they talk about some heavier things, but I think it would be fine. Now, we're saying that without me rereading everything and making sure, but like overall, but there's some really great moments in here that I do want to talk about. So I think the best way to break this down.
You want to talk about the naked mole rat? That's what you wanted to talk about?
We can talk about the naked mole rat.
We'll circle back. You go first.
I think let's go ahead and talk about Jason Todd's story, because I think it's really good. So, he's describing Jason Todd. He's talking about, he describes him as like this, he's the second son and apprentice, and he's like, to the king but it was just Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about how he's been broken and how he's a hunter and how he's done different things. Talk about how he's hardened. But there's this really great moment in here that I do want to talk about. Because while we're dealing with this, we're also dealing with Damian's like insecurities
Oh, for sure, yeah.
relating himself to the other Bat Boys and seeing himself, and like often when we see Damian sometimes and the Ra's al Ghul, the Al Ghuls, yeah, Al Ghuls.
Real bold stance being a Ra's, not a Raish, because you know there's
Raish.
like the impending
Raish
war. I'm a Ra's person too.
I think
Raish makes me cringe, but like to each their own, obviously.
But he'll even draw them with like horns and stuff. And there's this moment where he's talking with Jason Todd, and we see, I'll show it, but we see the like devil horns on both of them. But like that's how he sees himself.
Yeah.
And he's dealing with this. He murdered someone, so he's dealing with that. But there's this great moment because you know they're just kind of hanging out and they're fighting stuff together, and they're hit with some gas where Jason Todd is reliving.
Yeah.
This PTSD moment with the Joker, which I always love people actually address because I think a lot of times they don't in the comic books.
Yeah, it's true.
But we've got to talk about the moment where he says, why couldn't he do it for me?
I know, that was so sad.
Because he's like, oh, he's taking time to, like, Batman's taking time to understand you. He's doing these things for you. Why couldn't he do this for me? And the face is so sad. So I want to get your opinions on, like, the Jason Todd issue.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved it because he's going through his own, as you said, sort of journey himself. I wish, honestly, there's a question from Kenneth at 812. Do you think there's too many Robins? This was a question for you, so I'll let you answer. But honestly, my opinion, Kenneth, is I wanted more. I actually think this could have worked just as well adding an issue or so. I think we could have had like a Stephanie Brown even in there, which I think would have been an interesting comparison point because she's always forgotten. But I still think it still would bring about something in Damian's own journey that would have added. I liked seeing different aspects of what he was struggling with and also what makes him unique, because I think it was a mirror, right? It was to say, okay, I didn't get this, right? So there was this absence of things. But then each issue did have a few moments of contrast where it's something Damian has that makes him unique and special. I loved the Jason Todd one, and I also really enjoyed the Tim Drake one. Also, the plot of that one was really fun. I love like a cocktail party that's gone wrong type situation, or like a big banquet, or I think in this case it was an inauguration gala. I just love that environment. But I liked having the Robins, again, to point out like what's missing maybe for him or what is an insecurity or what have you, but also like what makes this Robin unique, because everyone generally does have their Robin and it's for a specific reason. So I would have loved to see even more of them. But what did you think about that device? And do you think it went on for too long or should have gone on longer?
No, I loved it. I love this sort of like, we have our own like side story going on of like, you know, of Damian's own like larger stories he's going through while we're having this like fairy tale retellings of that person's story and look into them and comparison with all of them. Because I think he sees himself in each of these guys, but also sees what he's lacking constantly.
Yeah.
Which I think makes him interesting. Because a lot of times our Damian books that we read, it's just him being a little shit, which I still love.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really good point.
You know, I love when Damian's a little shit. Batman and Robin's one of those like omnibuses that people like love and bring up all the time. But I think for a lot of people, that's not their Robin still.
Yeah.
And so there's still this like, oh, well, we can enjoy him, but a lot of people are like, oh, he's kind of the worst sometimes. Like it's what people feel like. I feel differently because of Super Sons personally. That's what kind of turned the tide for me. But I love my favorite Batman stories are focused on Bat family overall, more so than Batman. For sure. And I think this is such a great, I'm glad you brought up Wayne Family Adventures. This is such a great Bat family book. It gives you such a good view into like the overall emotions and characterization of each
Yeah.
Bat family, which is what I really like to see. It makes me care about them more. Because a lot of times we're too busy getting into like the, Nightwing doing acrobatics and stuff, and like Red Hood just killing people, and Tim Drake sometimes is there.
I know Tim Drake really is. Yeah. Oh, you were mentioning Damian as maybe not the most popular. I think it's also a generational thing, because I do a lot of work with youth, and Damian is there, like,
really
by far, percentage wise, for younger kids, like 8th or 9th grade and younger. Damian's their guy, because he's in a lot of the animated stuff that they saw that got them into like comics, or is going to get them into comics, I should say, in the case of some. So I think it's also like a generational thing, but I definitely think like amongst our age group and older, I would totally agree with your assessment. And I think Tim Drake's even more forgotten.
I think, yeah, for sure.
Probably. Sure. But yeah, I think if you're a Wayne Family Adventures, and also it also gave a little bit of, it's almost like if Wayne Family Adventures had a baby with the like Rebirth early Detective Comics stuff, which was very heavy Bat Family, and
which
kind
is
of like
why it's my favorite.
Yeah, it was a nice balance. They really played off of each other, and like what their role is, or was, I should say, in the dynamic. And even some of the monsters actually, and the villains, like, definitely there was a retro classic vibe to some of the villains that they used in that initial Rebirth period. So I think like some combination of those two things, I think, is this book.
Oh yeah. Okay, there's so much to talk about. So yeah, when I said he killed a guy, part of the reason why we're having this issue here is that earlier on, Damian talks about how he had beheaded a man. Now, as we know in DC Comics, especially with Batman, you don't kill a guy. You don't do that. And so that's why he's having this issue.
Yeah.
Because he's also, he doesn't like his grandfather, but he's worried about becoming his grandfather as well.
Yeah, his grandfather looms large for sure in this book. And that's, as you were talking about earlier, the sort of like play on fantasy or hero's journey type thing definitely involves a lot of his backstory and his grandfather. That's like the through line, especially in those first few issues that are a little bit disconnected in their nature as far as like a story. The story is the building mythology of this character. And again, we think it's Damian telling his own story for the majority of the book, I would say.
Which honestly, it kind of suits him as somebody who couldn't connect and probably would talk about it in this way. Like, he's the kid that goes to therapy and is like, hey, can you just tell me? He's like, there was once a boy.
Yes.
They're like, okay, Damien, whatever you got. Your friend? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And that isn't it. Narrative therapy is like a modality that kids use, especially like in art and telling stories. And I think that's a good call. Because he's definitely had some traumatic stuff to go to therapy for if he so needed it. If he so needed it, I feel as though this makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not like his dad's prepared. So before we get to the next issue, there's like, but when he's still talking to Jason, there's a good moment here, which I think also clues into like Bruce is a father who is just messed up a lot and is still learning how to be just an emotionally intelligent human being at all. I think historically he's not great at it. But it's this great moment where, Jason's sulking and he's like, hey, after I beheaded that man, father was furious. And after scolding me for 6 hours, he told me about you. He didn't describe you as a failure, though. He said the failure was his for not knowing how to make it better. And I'm not proud of it, but all through that speech, all I could think was, why can't he be as understanding with me?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that you're lucky, but I guess I've always envied you. And he's like, oh, and if you ever want out of this room, reach out to Grayson. He's good with these things. It's just very like sweet and like understanding, but also was such a good.
Yeah, totally.
And it's so siblings. Siblings are so like this. Like, well, why isn't it like this with me? Like, well, you don't see the part I see. And Bruce isn't going to tell you because he's not good at people ever.
Yeah, and older siblings, especially as they age, well, any of us, I think, as we age into adulthood, I would say the vast majority of us have moments, if not whole conversations, maybe around sort of understanding looking back at our childhood and sort of realizing that your parents were people too. Because when you're a kid, your parents are like your parents, you know, your mom, your dad, whatever. You aren't thinking of them as like 25-year-olds, 35-year-olds. And then when you hit that age, you're like, oh, this was like where my mom was at. And you kind of can look back with different. So older siblings, I think, especially maybe have this ability to sort of supplant that idea with their younger siblings earlier on. But yeah, even when your peers, like everyone is having a different experience, even if they were raised in the exact same household, because we all observe the world through like our own, you know, prism. But yeah, it was a great scene.
So, the Tim Drake scene at the party. Let's talk about that. So, how do you feel about this? You said you really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I thought it was like a fun. It definitely gave the vibes of a animated Batman the Animated Series kind of episode setup, or like Justice League setup. Like there's a big banquet. They're at Cobblepot's building with this giant name on the side of it, but they're going to this fundraiser instead of Bruce Wayne, we assume the benefactor, of course, and it's just like a great little setup for hijinks. And I loved the art of the inside of the building. They had these awesome statues of the Justice League in the like banquet hall. It was just like a fun setting, I think, for some of this.
There we go.
Yeah. It was kind of fun.
And as they walked into the hall and gazed upon what could be best described as bastardized shrines to the heroes of the world. But I also really like this part where they talk, like, the drawing of him going through the air ducts.
The air ducts were cool. There was also another scene where he is kind of like zeroing in on different artifacts, like Penguin's like cane, things like that. Gotcha. I thought was pretty well done. It was just like a very, I don't know, the way it was drawn really did remind me of like a storyboard for an animated episode of something. It was fast moving.
Oh, absolutely.
Super
it felt
engaging.
Like a great, fun sort of heist.
Yeah.
Like
heist. Yeah, that's a good comp. Yeah, totally.
Especially because, you know, they're doing things in different ways. And at this point, like, Damien is like, oh, Tim's not taking this seriously. He's like betraying our dad's trust. He's doing this. And like, and they also have this back and forth as well, where Tim's being a little like hard on him. So he's like, hey, do you feel bad because you hurt somebody or because you were punished for it? Do you only feel bad because you got found out? And like, he's trying to prove him like, oh, I want to do all this by myself and I got this. And I love that when he gets there, Tim's already there. Tim's like already there waiting for him. He's had to like shimmy through all this stuff and like get there. And Tim's like, hey, what's up, man? Which is a great like big brother moment. And for him to like stop doubting Tim as well. And can we talk about how cute Tim is in this like his little bird?
And that costume was wild, I have to say. It was the beak that sent me.
Oh, it's so good. But I thought this was very fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I think for me, as far as just having a good time with an issue, that was like definitely number one. Jason Todd sticks out just because I love Jason Todd. And those first three, again, are like kind of each in relation to another Robin. And I think the last two sort of go together a little bit more distinctly, where you're more just diving into the lore of Damien. Specifically, you're talking a lot about his origin story, his grandfather, his mother. And so those two kind of tonally are a little bit different and dive way more, like you said, of the vibe of a fantasy or a gothic fantasy.
Oh god, yeah, just so cool. Let me show a picture of that at least. But yeah, because we get back into the more of the lore of his mom. I thought was very cool. I thought it was a really cool way to see it.
Yeah.
Could just show her as like a young girl. And of course it would look like this. If you're living, you're like the child of Ra's al Ghul, I just feel like that's how your life is all the time. It looks like it's from like Egypt from like thousands of years ago.
Yeah, I loved the art. It reminded me too a little bit of in Hercules, you have the one animated style that's telling Hercules' story, but then when
Yeah.
there's backstory, they have those muses that are on pottery that come to life to tell the story. That's kind of the coloring and style that I think this reminded me of. And so I think it worked well narratively for sure.
It was great to like see the way that he views all of that as well. It's like, his mother was doing all these things and mistakenly kind of used him as her, like put all of her hopes and dreams into him, all of her goals into him, and like molded him into this.
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful and sad. And like, just in the seeing her and having to fight Ra's al Ghul and all of that was just really. Oh, even this one. This picture. I'm gonna have to get it physically. How fun is that?
Luckily today you can from your sponsor.
Physically. From our sponsor, Cheap Graphic Novels. It's hard because used to be on another show, and so it's hard not to say the other sponsor. It's like, oh no, it's not that one. Yeah, I just having all of this go through, and then talking to his grandfather and dealing with himself, and also finding ways to come to terms and talk to the spirit of the man that he killed.
Yeah.
And talk about why, and having to find peace and deal with this and come back from this. It was kind of beautiful. There's this moment where the body's talking to him about it. They're talking to each other. And he's like, I'm just a nobody to you. Like, nobody forced you to do this. Did you even know who I am? Do you even care? Do you even know my name? And he's like, he starts like reciting all these things, like Silas Smith, like, you're 47, you have these kids, you love Saturn chocolate bars, you have a dachshund, I've researched about you, and I regret it every day. And he's like, well, I want you to kill yourself. I want you to end it. He's like, I can't do that. I'm so sorry, this is what I've done, but I know that I can't ask forgiveness, but I hope that you give me the chance to do better. And it ends with him saying, like, I'll watch you. I'll be watching you. And I don't know. It's such a good Damian story. And of course, ending Batman does show up at the end, but which is a perfect kind of like wrap up to this, where he can be given his support because he's been downing himself this whole time. And Bruce is upset with himself for like letting him deal with this alone.
Yeah, and I think also in issue 5, I think the reveal comes in issue 4 that the narrator is not Damian, but issue 5 you hear that Damian's listening on, and there's this like little mantra that they say a few times as the issue is closing, because this person reveals themselves, the narrator, they're not Damian, their dad was also mixed up in some bad things.
Well, and their dad's the one that Damian killed.
Yeah. And they're inspired by Damian. And so the mantra that gets repeated, not just by this person who was revealed to not be Damian, but also by the kidnapper, is how do you want to impact the world? And I think that you get this nice closure, not just for Damian on a personal level, but also like the validation for him as a hero, and that he can inspire people, and how you can kind of like change your own narrative. And I think that was really nice, sweet, way to end the story.
Yeah. I like the way that like, hey, everyone messes up, and there's like throughout the story, there's a lot of like messages, but one of them is you can mess up and course correct.
Yeah,
you can mess up so far that you think you have no place to go. It doesn't mean you can't change it around and make those people proud and do the right thing. Which is it feels so cheesy to talk about. Like, yeah, it's a comic book, duh. That's like, but it's a nice message, especially right now. Yeah, if you feel like you've done a mistake, you can course correct and be a good change in your community.
Absolutely, and we all should be open to that. I think it's like also a good reminder that no matter where you're at, even if you feel like you're doing pretty good, you're not living a life of crime maybe as overtly as some of these other people. Like, we can all take moments where we learn something new and move forward with that knowledge and course correct. And it's never too late for that, which I think was really nicely played, because it's like this kid who reveals themselves is a child talking to a grown-up who probably has gone down a bad path for quite a while. And that person also still has time. It's like never too late. And I think that's a nice reminder for everyone, for sure.
Yeah, there's this great last page where we see the other people it's affected.
Yeah.
And they lean about just, hey, if you are, it drives home the sense of community and how important that is. And like, they're saying like, we're part of a collective. Oh, okay. A union of people trying to help their community make sense of the system that they're in. Now we support each other. We find support resources, job. We offer assistance. We try to like work together to solve our problems without turning to crime or predatory corporate schemes as a Faustian solution, which Damien would say that, to be fair. We help out and we counsel. We pull.
Maybe that's where the Black Label comes in. They're like, that's a little too much.
They're like, whoa, calm down. Are you a commie? It's chill out, Damien. We're not allowed to do that. But yeah, I thought this was great, and like, I would love to see more Juni Ba on some DC Comics. We talk about like, look at this, look at Clark and Batman. Like, this is like, it does feel like an older like cartoon look of like what we grew up with, like that strong comical draw of like Justice League cartoons.
Yeah, a square
freaking
jaw.
Batman, short sentences, makes me laugh.
Yeah, I thought Juni Ba did. I mean, the art is fantastic, and also the characterization. I mean, like, it is a bit of a challenge. It's a challenge to take on any character, right? That has all the lore that any of these one characters actually have that are in this book. But to do multiple, and I think really nail the voice. Tom Taylor, I think, is the king of this, in my opinion. For sure. Tom Taylor can find the voice. He could do like a 30 character book, like Injustice or something like that, and just nails every single time the voice of that character. That's tough to do. You know, it's hard enough to take on one, but I think that Juni Ba did great with, I would say, a handful of characters here that have deep lore behind them. So I would like to see them take on some more work.
So now's the hangout portion, but first you gotta give it a rating. Jess.
Yeah, I would go. Do we go out of 10 or 5?
Yeah, we do out of 10.
10, I think. I would say, for me, about an 8.5. I think the art is a 10 out of 10. The story, for me, I thought was good. Nothing amazing for me personally, but this isn't my corner of the DC universe that I love most. And again, I do think if this is your corner, this is going to work even better for you. But the story was pretty good. I thought it did a few unique things, but mostly played it safe. There's no problem with playing it safe. That was like a 7. So yeah, it washes out in between, maybe as like as an 8.5, but it is a book, I would say, that I would recommend. And I actually do think it's mostly new reader friendly. I do think you get a lot out of knowing. I think you get more of the introspection that Damien's having if you actually know some of the lore pretty well. But behind each of these, especially in the first 3 issues, each of these other Robins. But I don't think you have to know it. And I think this is a serviceable little intro if you don't. So it is a book that I would easily recommend to people. But I would say for me personally, it averages out about an 8.5. What about for you?
I'd say it's a 9 for me. I really loved this. I thought it was great. I could have done with more of it, I think.
Yeah, I think even honestly, 7 issues, I feel like would have bumped this up for me. I think.
Agreed. But I thought it was great. I thought it was a great, like, I mean, it was a surprise for one.
Yeah,
I think if you're a Bat Family enthusiast like me, I think if you spend a lot of time with these characters in all of their iterations, I feel like this is a book that's absolutely warranted for your collection to have.
I mean, honestly, I think essential. The art is so good and the characterization is so solid that I would for sure imagine this is a must-have for Bat Family fans.
This is going up there with like Wayne Family Adventures for me, as far as just like people that are like, well, I want to read this, but I want some more time with like the family. I'm like, here you go.
Yeah.
Detective Comics by James Tynion, Wayne Family Adventures, and then Boy Wonder, I think, and Super Sons. I'm like, here you go. Here's your little package of just like something different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was really cool. Now it's chill time. What's up, guys? What's up with the chat? What's up? Jess is in a comic rut right now.
I very much am.
She's
yes.
struggling.
I begged people on OmniDog's show. This was, I guess it was a month ago. No, because you came on last month, didn't you? So maybe it was in.
We read some Jonathan Kent Superman stuff.
Yeah, we read the Philip Kennedy Johnson stuff. I need you to read War World still.
I'd like to.
War World Saga. Yeah.
Especially now that I know that he's kept the costume for special time with Lois Lane. There's a scene in there, Chad, you haven't read it?
It wasn't the Wonder Twins for you. It wasn't like, oh, now that I've met the Wonder Twins, I have to understand like where they came from.
There's a scene in there where they're having like a house party. And I think it's Connor going through the house. He's looking for something. I mean, no, Jonathan. And he's looking in the closet for something and he finds Superman's War World outfit, which is like, you know, I assume it's shirtless. And like they immediately close the door, like, don't look at that. So it's obvious that like Lois is a fan and they use it for something freaky and they keep it in the closet. And I think that's great. And I'm glad that their relationship and sex life is really healthy. Good for them. Good for Lois and Clark.
I also meant to say Super Twins earlier, not Wonder. I was like, that sounded wrong. That's how bad of a rut I'm in. But the month before you came on, I was like, give me some recommendations. I did get some good ones, like the Dark Ride one. Someone also recommended, and they said they had recommended it to you. It actually was Jess himself, actually. Recommended Die by Kieran Gillen, which is
People wanted me to read that for a long time.
Board game.
The D&D one.
Yeah. And I got the first volume from the library. I just haven't cracked it open. So I am hoping to get into that one. But yeah, I'm in a rut. So if you see this later, absolutely. Also include some recommendations down below.
Yeah, I've definitely been reading, but I think a mix of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I keep reading, like, I'm like halfway through like 3 different prose books. Normally I read one at a time. But
any that I've recommended? The chat's like, prose, we're gone. See ya.
Yeah. No, I'm in, I'm reading The Poppy War. That's from James.
Oh, I heard that will traumatize me. So please report back.
I will. Oh, update. I haven't read any more Street Talk. I mean, like a few more chapters. Saving it for this weekend. And then like Long Live Evil. But let me see, according to my Goodreads. I'm watching a lot of anime right now because I'm really cool.
That's what I pulled up. Yeah, since the new year, this is all I've read. This is so bad. Oh, Scott's got some prose recs all day. Scott,
Scott, send them.
Drop like a beat or something fresh. I don't know.
Oh man, all sorts of books. I read a lot of. I mean, I like sci-fi and fantasy. I love thriller and horror as well.
This year, Maddie, all I have read. I mean, it's only been like a month and a half, but all I have read comics-wise are the Superman books we read for the show. I also read Superman Kryptonite by Darwin Cook, which I thought would land really well with me because I usually love Darwin Cook, and I found it incredibly mid. The art was great, but I found it incredibly mid. That was sad. And then I did read this. Who published this? Was this Image? Yeah. I read Petrolhead, which I thought was fun and interesting. The first volume is out. It's by Rob Williams. It's kind of like a futuristic... dystopian, I guess would be the right word for it. It was fun. It was very wordy. That was not the best way to start the year. So yeah, if you have the 2 things I'm looking for in comics are deep lore and incredibly immersive. I think that would work for me right now. Or like super fun and very easy to get through. Like this was fun and very easy to get through. So I really appreciated your pick for tonight.
Well, let's see my Goodreads from my week of DC Universe Infinite Ultra, whatever.
I love this for you, by the way.
So hopefully Near Mint gets that officially so that I can just read everything. I read the newest Power Girl. I had a great time with it, honestly.
Okay.
I had a great time with Power Girl. Leah Williams. I read something else by her recently. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was going to say I have too.
Maybe we did it together. I don't know. But
I don't think so.
Honestly, super fun time.
Okay, let me write
She's just doing some fun stuff. I think for like there's a second where maybe she hangs out with Crash for a second too.
Okay, I love this.
I forgot who else she's hanging out with at the apartment, but they also end up in like some fantasy land for a second.
Okay,
it's just a good time.
I love
a good time. Power Girl.
Yeah, I do too.
Satana Bring Down the House, if that was all right. Not
Okay,
bad.
yeah, I read the first issue of that when it came out, but I haven't caught up. I thought the first issue was fine, but I also thought it was something that I would want the entire thing out before I read it.
Yeah, I remember thinking, like, I gave it a 4, but in my mind, I remember thinking it was okay.
Is it finished up now?
Yeah.
It's a mini. Okay.
It's finished.
Yeah, I'll catch up on that then.
Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville. Not great.
Yeah,
Just okay.
I did read that. I didn't find that great. I also didn't like Harvests of Youth or whatever that book was called.
I like.
You chose to skip. I know you liked it. It's okay to disagree, chat. We're still friends.
Spirit World, I think
really... Maddie didn't address that. She was like, "Are we still friends?"
We're still friends.
Harvest of Youth was it. That was the final straw.
No, but I love him trying to deal with incels.
Spirit World is fun. I have read that.
Spirit World was really cool, and I
liked that.
Would love there to be more, and I'm sure there never will be.
Correct. Yep. Feel all the same feels.
Because it was so cool. Just like the way that she balanced between like the living and the dead. And like we looked at more of like the underworld in like, you know, more of a Chinese way. And it was so, and like even Constantine's involved. Very cool.
Very cool lore. That had a lot of great lore, that book.
Swamp Thing Green Hell was super cool.
Okay. I think that's the one I did not like.
Oh, really?
There was another mini before that, maybe though, that I'm thinking of. Let me see.
This one, like, I thought it was cool just because of everybody teamed up together. Like, Constantine's like really old. The world's been taken over. It's like an apocalyptic scenario, and Swamp Thing has to like leave where he's really happy and like.
Yeah, that is the one I read. I found it to be mid.
Oh, I had a good time.
No, I want you to have a good time.
Now we're gonna get some controversial ones because I read some DC young adult graphic novels, and if the person who I banned from the channel didn't if they were here, they would not like these books. Galaxy the Prettiest Star. I had a great time with it. I thought it was really fun.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. It's been on my radar for a while, but I suspect I will find it to be pretty average. And I don't know why I have that feeling in my brain, but I will.
Well, I always did too. It's fun. When I give those a high rating, usually it's because I'm like, you did good for what you are.
I love that. Jedzia Axelrod also did the Hot Girl mini, I think, if I'm correct, that I read the first issue of a while back.
Mr. Miracle was all right. It was a good time.
Okay.
Refrigerator Full of Heads. Now, I guess I should have read the first book and not this one first. I didn't like it. Bad Dream, a Dreamer Story. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's the one the actress who played Dreamer wrote, right? Nicole Maines? Okay, I'll write that one down.
Barda was not as good as I want it to be.
Yeah, I did not like that.
Fan. I was bummed. I was bummed by Barda. Okay, now ignore all the other books. No cowboy romance.
What else you're reading, Maddie? No. Scott has some recs now that we can go through.
Fable is like the comic Fables, or there's a book Fables?
Are you kidding me? Yeah, Fables is a comic.
Oh, then yeah. Fables was my first comic book ever.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, I read all of Fables. It was my first.
You read all of Fables as your very first?
Yeah.
How was that?
Read anything. I loved it. I had a great time.
Yeah. No, I love it too. I think it's great. Yeah. It takes a lot of crazy, like, when you're binging it, it works. I cannot imagine reading it as it came out. I think I would get a bit frustrated with all the tangents. But that's one I wish, low-key, Fables, it's weird to say Fables should be adapted because it is in itself like an adaptation of other fairy tale stories. But the kind of vibe of that world, I want that. I want that.
We should play the game. The Wolf.
Oh, I didn't know there was a game.
Wolf Among Us. Yeah.
Oh, Oh, okay.
You play as Bigby Wolf.
Wow, I had no clue. This is a video game, I assume.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's the same people who made the Walking Dead Telltale game that I love. The studio itself, we've had some problems with overworking and stuff, but that was before that happened, I guess. The game's
okay, yeah, I would definitely play that.
Oh, and I would love to play it with you because they're great. Same with the Walking Dead game.
Oh, there's a sequel. I have played. It's the 2D kind of one, right? That you're talking about.
Yeah, you just make no choices.
Yeah, it was fun.
I need to read my first. I think this year will be the year of my first Sanderson. I think I'm gonna try and make it happen.
Are you gonna start with Mistborn, or you're gonna?
I don't know if I should do Mistborn or Stormlight Archives.
I would start with Mistborn if I were you.
Okay.
I have read Mistborn. I enjoyed Mistborn, though I haven't read. It's continued on past the initial few that came out. I started. I started Wind and Truth. I don't think I finished it. It was years ago. So
start
I
with
definitely
Mistborn or Warbreaker. Okay.
Yeah. Warbreaker was great. That was kind of standalone, right? JS, I think. I think that was the second thing I read after I finished Mistborn. It had a terrible cover at the time. This was like a while back. It was rough. It was a bad cover. I need a new version. Oh, Jay says yes, and it ties into Stormlight. Yeah, I mean, I think it's all. Oh, that's not what I was talking about then. What's the name of the first book, Scott, in that series? Tell us. We're just waiting.
But yeah, as far as comic books, anybody has recommendations for like, I don't know. Next week we're doing some Daredevil.
Way of Kings. Way of Kings. Thank you, Scott. I looked it up too.
So next week, Omar and Amanda are coming on. We're doing some Daredevil, and then the week after that.
Wait. Whoa! Just skipping over my man. What Daredevil are you reading? Let's give it some time.
I don't remember.
Wow. Okay.
It was a Patreon vote that got put up, so I can't.
Harsh.
Let me just look real quick. You know I don't look ahead of time because I'm not going to read it until next week.
Okay.
Until that day.
I'll be waiting for that. I actually am starting this week. I'm going to start my Daredevil rewatch because I got to get ready for Born Again. Very excited.
Bendis.
Oh, okay, great. Yes, love this for you. James in here confirming.
Thank you, James Bendis. And then the week after that, although I think the date might change because I just saw a message from him, but Sean from Comic Pals is going to hang out with me. We're going to read something. I need to recommend him something, so I need to like think through my weird recs. How many times can I do a show about Upgrade Soul on this channel until it's like
the limit is endless?
Upgrade Soul again. No, well, I'll find something that maybe haven't done on here and figure it out. But yeah.
I love that.
I've been doing watching shows.
You're prepping for Yellow Jackets to come back. You're watching.
Oh my God, Friday. Severance. I'm watching Dexter First Blood. I'm watching a ton of anime.
Let's rewind. First off, the Yellow Jackets coming out on Valentine's Day was great marketing. Yeah. But it coming out the same day as Love is Blind is a bit of a Sophie's choice for me.
It's Yellow Jackets. All the way.
I'm really in my trashy TV era, like peak. Like it's at the highest it's ever been, I would say.
I've only done it once. I can do it again, James.
2020,
5 years.
2020, anything that happened in 2020 doesn't count. We all know that.
I could totally do it again.
The rules.
Listen,
you could do that.
We've done shows over and over again. You and I reviewed Batgirl this year after we thought we hadn't.
Like literally, wasn't it close to the 1 year anniversary of when we did it the first time?
So we just do it again.
Man.
Every year we do this bit where we act like we.
I think we should do it.
Batgirl year one.
Well, I want you to read because I still don't think you have read Stephanie Brown Batgirl for the show.
I've never read a Stephanie Brown Batgirl.
Yeah, I would totally do that with you, and we should see if we can convince
Cassandra Clare Batgirl. Maybe I forgot.
You have.
I actually don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We should try to convince Batmanda to read along with us because I think she said she had not.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Also read it. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. And I'm hoping Chris will come on sometime next month, so I'm waiting to see.
I know. I miss her. I have this friend who's getting into comics for the first time. She's very like nerdy, kind of been into a lot of other things. And her thing was Lumberjanes. I don't actually know how this started. I think she went to a con. This booth guy talked to her a whole lot, and then she sold her these books. And so she was like, well, I read comics now. And to her credit, she's really torn through many corners of the comics universe. But for some reason, she perpetually forgets I have read Lumberjanes. Like frequently when this topic comes up, she's like, and you could always try Lumberjanes. And I'm like, Kelly, I have read Lumberjanes. We have been over this. But it reminds me a lot of Kristen because that's very much her corner of the universe.
I feel like that's me with sometimes I forget some people have read Iron Widow, and I recommend Iron Widow every time I get a chance. Usually, although I reread that and I don't like it as much as I did the first time.
Oh, is that the prose book though that has the sequel that was delayed?
Mm-hmm.
Is it out now? The sequel?
Yeah, I've got it. If you want to borrow it, read it. Are you both watch the Oscars Best Picture? I'm like, no, I didn't actually. I think.
What was nominated?
That's a good question. Oscar nominations.
Let's see.
I forgot that they haven't happened yet, the Oscars.
Why is it telling me everything that won Best Picture from the last 100 years? That is not what I.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing.
Okay.
I did watch Darling in the Franxx.
What did you watch? Sorry.
Oh, they're saying if you liked Iron Widow to watch Darling in the Franxx, which was what kind of inspired it.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think this is it. So it's I'm Still Here. Haven't seen it, but the Kentucky is playing it, and I do want to see it. James's favorite movie that he's trying to get Omnidog and I to watch, but I feel like it's gonna be too Gen Z for me, which is Anora. Have you seen it?
Yeah,
it feels like something you would casually see on a Tuesday. No?
It does. It is what I would do, to be fair. Yeah, out of the Best Picture nominees, I've only seen Wicked and Dune Part 2. But I've heard I should watch Conclave.
Conclave, just for a second. You're a millennial. Remember in the 90s when there were a series of thrillers that were not like car chase, shoot 'em up thrillers, but they were like paced like a thriller, but it was like a mystery with a lot of information coming at you? That is Conclave. Like the vibe of it reminded me in the most nostalgic way of these like more non-action oriented thrillers of the 90s. The Pelican Brief is the one that's like coming to mind for me as kind of a good comp, but the ending did throw me off. Other people loved it and I loved that for them, but I was a little thrown off.
As a culturally Catholic, very interested.
Yeah, you'll like it.
I'd like to watch Substance, and Amelia Perez can go in the garbage as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so. I want your opinion of Substance. Okay. I have thoughts, but I don't want to share them. I don't want to color your thoughts. I'm dying to see The Brutalist. I heard it does have an actual intermission, and I do love that for them. Yeah. But 3+ hours is just like a lot. Adrian Brody, I know, could carry it. I'm so confident I will love this movie. But the
maybe it's better watched at home.
I think so.
You know,
I have not seen Dune Part 2, but I finally did watch Dune, so now I'm ready to watch Part 2.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I want to see Nickel Boys very badly. I loved Wicked. Amelia Perez, the sound bites from it traumatized me, so I will not be watching that. But like, if you loved it, go off Queen. Love that for you. And A Complete Unknown, I have no interest in. I'm sure it's great. I think Jess really wanted to see it. I don't know if he wound up seeing it, but it just feels like it's going to be a miss for me. And I just don't want to. I don't want to bring others down with my sour opinion of it. You know. It's just
Mark's the one to talk to in the chat because he and his wife always watch them all.
Did he like it? Mark, are you still here? And did you like A Complete Unknown? It has a great audience rating, 96%.
Yeah, I'm just ready for all my comic book movies. That's all I care. I rewatched Creature Commandos over the weekend with some friends. I'm gonna do a rewatch of Peacemaker. I just need Superman to be here. I'm kind of it's keeping me going. Give me Superman.
I love that. I am excited for Thunderbolts. I think there's a chance I might hate it. I just feel like it might not work for me, but there are a lot of elements I love, and I just saw the full trailer. I went and saw Companion recently, and Hard Eyes actually.
Hard Eyes is great. Hard Eyes is great.
Hard Eyes was very fun. It was very like, because there are so many action romances now, movies that are like equal parts romance and action, but this truly was equal parts kind of slasher horror camp. And
the director's a favorite of ours because he does improv comedy on Dropout.
Oh, so, I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Is this his
Josh
first?
Rubin. No,
his
he
first?
also did oh, I forgot what it's called, but it's like it was a movie about where they're trying to figure out who the werewolf is in a small town. So they're like horror comedy.
Fun. Okay.
Ugh,
I love that.
so good.
Did you watch Companion yet?
Oh, nice. No, I haven't. I wanted to see it, but Elliot didn't want to see it. So then
Really?
I haven't.
That surprises me.
I haven't seen it yet.
It was pretty good. It was a little predictable, I would say, but I did enjoy it. What it was trying to do, I think it did a good job of doing, for sure.
Okay.
James, I think you'll like it overall.
Nice.
I like that that Quaid kid, Jack Quaid, is that his name?
Yeah,
I love
Jack
that his
Quaid.
whole thing right now is like, I look like a dopey boy next door, but I actually might be sinister. It's like every character he has played in the last 20 movies. And there's a trailer that played before Companion for a movie that's what was it called?
I forgot what it's called, but he just keeps getting like hurt. Novocaine, yeah.
And so he's kind of like a superhero because he just, he can't feel pain. And I was like, I think in this one he's probably like a good guy, right? But it's just funny that his whole thing is like inverting the trope that his face was born to play. I love that. It reminds me of the trajectory of Adam Brody's career, because Adam Brody also was like Boy Next Door, like etc. And now he like almost exclusively plays deeply problematic men, and I just love that for him.
I think Justin Long is like the epitome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a good example of that too.
But also he's like that in real life. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. I'll be back next week with some Bendis Daredevil. You know how much Omar loves Bendis, so that'd be fun. Take care of yourselves. Stay warm if you're dealing with all the snow. And take care of each other. So stupid. But you should take care of each other.
You should take care of each other. You should, yeah.
You know, especially right now. Yeah. So if you like this video or like this comic book, comment down below. If you're gonna read it later, you can always come back later and be like, hey, I finally read it. Here's my thoughts. Feel free to share and always send some recommendations for the rest of the year, comic books you want us to read, me to read, whatever. There's some classics and some more Marvel stuff I have not read. I'd love to read some more. Hey, what are you doing? Punisher this year as well. Just to dunk on people.
Your goal year after year is more Punisher.
Just give me another Punisher. I've only read one Punisher ever.
My friend Dustin all about it. He's never read Punisher in his life. Never. He's seen the TV show, I think, and someone got him a Punisher Yeti, like a Yeti thermos. And I'm like, I want Maddie to interact with you because she loves to provide commentary on Punisher anytime she sees any of that.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys subscribe to the channel. Probably already doing that. Check out our Patreon to vote for future videos and everything else. And I don't know, end the show. See you next time. Goodbye.